"You won't believe what happened at our office party," I said dramatically, pushing the door shut with flair. She was in the kitchen, probably brewing her favorite cinnamon tea as always. She peeked out, holding a steaming mug in her hands. "Oh, let me guess," she teased, her tone playful. "Another night of wild dancing? Or did someone show up with an axe again, like last time?" A soft smirk tugged at the corners of her lips, her voice light and affectionate. "I wasn't exactly sober." "Well, you know how it is at these parties," I said, grinning. "A toast here, a toast there. To the company's success, to friendship, to a brilliant future, basically, to everything under the sun." The mood had been carefree, and so was I, still riding the high of the evening. "Not this time." I waved my hand dismissively, puffing my cheeks in mock indignation. It was all very proper and respectable. Well, mostly. She raised an eyebrow, taking a slow sip from her mug. Her expression was a mix of mild curiosity and the kind of condescension that only comes after years of marriage. "And yet," I pressed on, the words spilling out like I was auditioning for a dramatic role, "do you know, Lily, that my colleagues have been eyeing me? I swear, one more stunning than the other." "Oh, really?" she chuckled, her voice full of amusement. "What about Hannah from accounting? The one who can't tell her spreadsheets from her folders? She's your type now." "Hannah!" I exclaimed, feigning exaggerated offense as I placed a hand dramatically on my chest. "Not a chance. She practically lives in the office." "But Lucy from HR," I let out a wistful sigh as if recalling something magical. "She came up to me in this red dress and said, 'I'm so tired of this dull married life.'" Lily snorted at that, amused, but for a fleeting moment her smile faltered. Something unreadable flickered in her eyes. "Ah, the modern Casanova strikes again," she quipped, her tone sharp but not entirely unkind. At first, I held my ground, I said with mock seriousness, pausing for dramatic effect. But somehow, I couldn't resist her allure. Her expression suddenly shifted, subtly cold. The narrowing of her eyes and the tension at the corners of her lips stopped me in my tracks. "Wait, are you serious?" she asked, her voice dropping to a lower, sharper tone. The change hit me like a bucket of ice water. The joke had taken a dangerous turn. "Well," I stammered, raising my hands in surrender. She lingered for a second, her gaze piercing, before turning and walking away into the kitchen. I stood there, rooted in place, unsure what to do. Reluctantly, I followed her. When I caught up, she was already in the living room. She had curled up on the sofa, legs tucked beneath her, with a plaid blanket draped over her shoulders. She faced away, her posture tense and unyielding. "David," she began, her voice quiet and almost fragile. She didn't look at me. Her eyes seemed focused on some distant point. "Since we're on the subject." Something in her tone sent a chill through me. "What subject?" I asked, frowning. My words came out more defensive than I intended. She started, her voice trembling. "Do you remember the New Year's corporate party 2 years ago?" I nodded slowly, trying to piece together where this was going. "Of course I do," I said cautiously. "I was working late that night and couldn't come to pick you up. You got home late and said you had a good time." "Why?" "The chief was there," she said quietly, almost to herself. "You remember him?" He had just started with the company back then. Something twisted deep in my stomach. "Yeah, I remember," I said stiffly. "What about him?" She glanced away, her fingers tightening around the edge of the blanket. "We were drunk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It only happened once." Her words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. For a moment, I couldn't process what she had just said. The world felt like it had slowed to a crawl. "Wait," I said sharply, my voice rising. "What did you just say?" She turned to face me, and in her eyes, I saw a mix of guilt and anguish that cut deeper than any physical blow. "I cheated on you," she said, her words echoing in my mind like a thunderclap. "What did you just say?" I repeated, almost not believing it. "It was a long time ago," she stammered, her voice cracking. "After that night, I tried to forget. It didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything." A fire surged inside me, dark and uncontrollable. "You call that nothing?" She broke down, tears streaming down her face. "David, I didn't want to. I thought I could handle it, but do you even realize what you're saying?" I shot to my feet, trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "You cheated. And now you're just dropping it on me like you bought new curtains or something." "I thought you'd understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible through her sobs. "Understand? What exactly am I supposed to understand?" She stepped toward me, her hands trembling, but I recoiled like her touch might burn me. "You were just joking about Lucy and your colleagues," she pleaded. "Exactly." I spat, a bitter laugh escaping me. "It was a joke, a joke. Do you even get that?" Her face froze, the color draining as my words sank in. "A joke," she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, damn it, a joke." The silence that followed was heavier than anything I had ever felt. I could see the realization dawning in her eyes, slow and devastating. "You were joking," she said hollowly. Then, after a pause, her voice cracked. "And you've ruined everything." I could barely contain the wave of anger and betrayal crashing through me. "Do you even get that, David?" she pleaded, stepping closer again. "Don't touch me," I said sharply, backing away. "Just don't." She covered her face with her hands, her sobs muffled but unrelenting. "I want to fix this," she cried out. "I'll do anything to make it right." "Fix it," I shouted, my voice breaking. "You think that's possible?" Grabbing my jacket in jerky, frantic movements, I stormed toward the door. "Where are you going?" she yelled after me, her voice desperate. "To get some air," I said coldly, slamming the door behind me so hard the glass in the frame rattled. The cold outside bit through my jacket and stung my fingers, but I barely noticed. The city was alive with its own rhythm. Cars humming in the distance, windows glowing with warm, yellow light. But I was standing in an empty alley, staring at the asphalt, which looked strangely black and shiny under the streetlights. We had lived together for 8 years. I had always believed our relationship was strong and honest. Lily was my everything, my home, my support. But now it all seemed like some kind of parody, a pathetic illusion. I remembered how we first met. She had been working in a bookstore, and I had asked her to help me find a gift for my nephew. Her laugh had been so sincere and open. But how did it come to this? The same question kept running through my head. Why? Why did she do it? And why didn't she tell me before? Why did it have to come out now, when I was joking like a fool? Or maybe it was my fault. Maybe I worked too hard and didn't pay her enough attention. But no! This was her choice, her action. A lump rose in my throat. I had believed her. I had always believed her. And now, the joke was over. What will start tomorrow? I didn't even know.